Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Presented by Primary Arms. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
I have an audience.
Wow. Who's the little one?
That's Remy. Remy is the little one, Gracie is this one, and then Ollie's the big lab. And that's why I have an audience. Because bacon. So what's everybody been up to?
Me, I've been working on my reloading room.
Awesome.
Me, I've been keeping my... Go ahead, Paul. Sorry. I thought you were done.
I don't know if you saw my post on the bench that I've got up on Discord, and I got my new chair in too. It even has a Travis mode. Can lay out horizontal on it.
Explain.
Yeah, you just go like this and off to the side and reach down and then kick my feet out. I'm all set, just like Travis. Just let the press run by itself.
It's living. So what you up to, Jim?
Just keep my SR40C nice and warm, comfortable, secure, under wraps, undercover.
Nick, I see your dad works cheap.
What's that?
He said I'd stand by you for a piece of bacon. I do lots of things for bacon. That's beside the point. Worked, and my niece got married Saturday, so excuse me, that was my weekend. Work.
Nick?
So.
I actually did quite a bit. So I did some more work on the reloading bench. Got it painted. It's good, looking pretty good. It's back in the corner. Went to a gun show over the weekend. Picked up a Forester case trimmer with 2 pilots. And I got a really good deal on that.
Yay, Nick.
And a set of 480 Ruger dies for sizing the neck on my Martini Henry brass.
We thought you were going to start reloading 480 Ruger with that. No,
I've never even seen a revolver for that. So, but also I had to do all my paperwork to get my FFL changed over to my new address and my SBR. Did all that today. That's about it.
So wait, you can have an SBR in Illinois, but you can't have a silencer.
I know, it's weird. Like with me having a CNR FFL, that allows us to have SBRs. But yeah, suppressors, it makes no sense.
Now, normally as a regular resident, you can't own an SBR.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that they allow an SBR at all is kind of weird. But they won't allow a silencer?
No. And
Nobody
you can go out and go coyote hunting at night with a night vision scope, and they don't care. But you go to suppress it, and they all have a hissy fit.
Mm-hmm. If they allowed silencers, Chicago would be a nicer place.
That wasn't too bad, Mikey. That wasn't too bad.
Anyway, moving right along. Travis, what you been up to?
Just melted some more of that stockpile of lead I picked up, making more ingots. That's it. Yeah.
Getting ready to start casting again?
Yeah, I'm a fair weathered shooter, so I might move indoors, do a little casting this winter. I think I got one or two more 3 guns in me. So Saturday I might go to 1 because I don't think it's going to be too cold. But we'll have to see about the ones after that.
I just looked and we got Paul Loud in the chat there. And you know what? I thought I saw that his birthday is coming up.
Well, I think it already passed.
Passed? Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So should we sing or what are we going to do here?
Oh, I don't know.
Lead the way, Paul.
I thought we were going to roast him. Turn the old spit on and see what he's up to here.
Well, I personally don't have a bad thing to say about the guy, so I can't be involved in the roasting.
Now, see, Travis, that proves to me you don't understand the concept of roasting.
Yeah.
Well, you roast the ones you love,
Right.
but say I don't have anything bad to add. He's a good guy.
It doesn't have to be bad. You just
Well,
make fun of him from whatever.
No, I go the horrible.
So in your case, you could say Paul Loud is so clean, he squeaks when he walks. See, that'd be a roast. It's a lame roast, but it's a roast nonetheless. So.
And you guys said my joke last week about Jim and the Navy was a horrible joke.
I didn't hear it, so.
So he's asking. So Paul's asking, how many pounds of lead do I have stockpiled now? That is a good question because I don't know how much those 5-gallon buckets weigh. I gotta weigh. I think I got 11 buckets. Well, we can kind of average it. Some are fuller than others, but there was a lot of debris because it came from an indoor range. So we had rubber belting as the backer that people would staple their targets to. And there was a lot of rubber, a lot of jackets, a lot of the dirt and just, crap in there. So I think I still got to go out and gather up all the ingots I got laid around out in the shop. But I think I got probably around 80 pounds. Each ingot's, Jim, one of the little ingots like the Lee or the Lyman ingot molds has 4. They're a pound, aren't they? You're muted, Jim. How much are each one of those?
Each one of those should be a pound each.
Yep.
About inch and a half
so
wide.
I think I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of it.
Go ahead, Travis.
Maybe 3 inches wide, long, 3 inches
Yep.
long, 1.5 inches tall, 1.5 inches wide or so. Maybe
That's
2
about a
inches
pound.
wide. I got a whole pile of them over there. I could grab one.
That's
I
about
got
a
probably
pound.
80 of those. So I just maybe guesstimate. I got maybe 1,000 pounds.
Chris W. has a question. And his question is for 300 Winchester short mag. This happened with both Lee full-size die for new brass and Lee next sizer die for once fired. And both 165, I have to go back up and get it. And
165 Hornady GMX and 125 grain Nosler boat tail. All bullets spin by finger after loading.
Yep. You're getting too much expansion. My comment is, or my reply is, you're getting too much expansion from your expander ball. Check your expander ball diameter.
Yep. When you're sizing the case. because that's the common denominator.
Yeah, when you pull the expander out of the case, it's expanding it. It sounds like it's expanding it too much. So, Chris, check your take your die apart. Check the OD, the major diameter, the biggest diameter of the expander ball.
Well, actually, no, because he's using a neck sizer on the ones fired.
Right.
Yes,
He's
but
using a
that's
neck
still
sizer. So
Does the lead?
he's not getting enough uh, sizing. Pull the expander ball out of a full length die and crank it down more on the Lee neck sizer, so it gets more the fingers come around the case neck more. You're not
Yeah,
getting enough. Go ahead, Mike.
because I was going to say neck sizer doesn't have an expander ball.
No, but it's got a rod.
Right.
And
got to
the
have a
rod
decapping rod.
The capping rod, and it also limits how much it'll squeeze the case. So he's got to measure that to see if it's too big, or to make sure that he's, it's got the compression part down at the bottom in order to move the fingers in at the top. If he isn't getting enough compression on that neck sizing die, it won't size the brass. And take the stem out of the full length size die. See what it measures.
Right there, he says both measure. Yeah, there you go.
Both measure 3055, and the bullets are still spinning.
So I've had this happen too, where it almost gets too much crimp, and it puts a crimp. Well, it depends on what kind of if he's using a taper or a roll crimp. So like a roll crimp, I've had it before where it kind of rolls in like this and kind of just pushes in on the jacket of whatever projectile where you can just spin it. So what says I'm stumped. So Chris, what die, how are you putting a crimp on that, if any?
He uses a factory crimp when he crimps. So, Chris, are you using the factory crimp every single time? Because if you're using the factory crimp every single time, then you're crimping too hard. So essentially what he's doing is say this is his bullet, and for imagination's sake, this is one solid size. So what he's doing is he's bringing that Lee crimp die down, and he's smashing in too much. It's pushing the material out, but it's also flexing the brass, so the brass isn't retaining its neck tension, and then you can spin the bullet. It's probably not enough to pull the bullet out, so that spoils that thought because he hasn't crimped any 300 WSM yet. So, all right, next thought.
Pull the pull the stem out, and you'll have to punch the primers out a separate operation. Pull the stem out and see what happens as far as the full length size die. That's the number one thing. See if it sizes enough. If he says it sizes 3055, go that way. I mean, just load it at that point. I mean, you're what 2.5 thou of neck tension. So that's plenty. That's good. It should not spin at that.
I have a question. This Lee neck sizing die, Is it a collet die or is it like a basic sizing die just for the neck only?
It's supposed to. It only sizes the neck. The lead
I
collet.
understand that, Paul, but
Yeah.
what style do they use? Is it a collet die which comes in from the horizontally, or is it like a sleeve that you go in to size the neck only? Collet. Thank you, Chris. Chris, try screwing down that collet a tad more, just a hair bit at a time, and see if that helps you. Because you need another thousandths or so. Sounds like you need another thousandths or two to size that neck down just enough to um, shrink that neck into the proper diameter to hold your .308 bullets.
Yeah, so he should be able to look in his manual also and take his calipers and measure where. Do we have a? I was going to say if we had a picture or something we could show him, but there should be some measurements in a book. Shows you what the proper diameter should be after you seat a bullet. Looks like Mike's going to pull one up. At least that right there would give you. Yeah, you should be able to pull up a measurement right there and reference that into a manual and see if you have the proper crimp or tension on that with just a set of calipers.
Mike, can you zoom in on that particularly on that neck of that case inside the die? Yes, exactly. Go in more if you can. Okay, I'm going to hit F11 on my keyboard. Maximize this screen. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's a collet system, and it allows if you put it in a hair more, it looks like it will actually tighten it up just a tad bit. Thank you, Mike.
So, Jim, how do you survive the full size die problem?
Again, I still stand by what I said. I thought 308 neck expanding balls should have been about .304. So I'm saying he's got about a thousandth and a half too much diameter.
Okay. Travis, you're muted. And you muted yourself, so I can't unmute you.
Sorry. So, Paul, what is this measurement showing us?
Can you hold it a little more steady, Travis? It's really
Oh,
flopping around.
I got to find where I'm pointing at first. Right there. 0.3440.
Well, you're looking at the inside of the case mouth there, as far as the chamber reamer goes. Okay, that's it. You have the neck. You got to add for the neck thickness and everything else, but it's minimum SAMI, and I'm looking at 0.3055 is plenty tight enough for a for a bolt action rifle and 300 wisdom. That the neck has got to be, but the neck has got to be tight enough. That's all. And if you want to go tighter, fine, but there's diminishing returns because your bullet's going to expand them. And if you go too tight, you'll damage the bullet trying to seat it. So I look at it as I open my necks up with an expanding mandrel, and I just pull the expanding ball out. I use for 308. I have a very good Lee 308 die that is very straight. So I just pull the stem out and go that way, and then go back and expand my necks with a separate expanding die, and I can control the neck expansion by 500 thousandths if I want.
Chris W has a further question. What about putting a neck size mandrel in a drill and wet sand it down here? The only problem with that is you have two problems with that. Number one, you're at risk of over sanding your expander or expansion mandrel. What's it called? Neck sizing mandrel. And you also run a chance of throwing it well off center.
And if you want one, go call Lee up. They'll make you one.
I agree with Paul on that. I agree with you totally on that, Paul, because it's like this is not a case to go cheap.
Right. And I think they're only like $7 or $8. So get them in a couple different measurements, or go out and buy a 21st Century or Porter Precision Products expanding mandrel set, and that way you can control it to let's just take it down to 5-10 thousandths, or by selecting the appropriate expanding mandrel, which you're not going to get from Lee as far as that precise.
Well, Chris W has a comment that he likes your idea better. In other words, purchasing the proper size mandrel or neck size expander, neck sizer.
I just prefer to use a mandrel die, and there's a lot of them there's a few of them that are made out there. K&M, 21st Century, Porter's Precision Products. It's just it's one more step in your reloading process. That's all.
So Ray, even though he's not on the show tonight, still brought up a good question. How deep is he seating the bullet, and is he crimping on the bearing surface? Well, he's not crimping, other than the bullet seating die. Most of your bullet seating dies do have a crimp in it, so if you don't set it to take the crimp out, then you're kind of crimping. So that could be an issue. But how deep is he seating, I guess, is a question too.
There should be enough neck tension, unless he's going so deep. I mean, that you got the bullet, the 125 in a Nosler 125 in a 300 Wisdom, the neck has enough there's enough bearing surface between the two that it shouldn't be a problem. And the GMX is definitely a long bullet, so that shouldn't be a problem either.
Sharenda, what you been up to?
I think the more appropriate question would be, what have I not been up to? So last week I wasn't here because I was in a different time zone. My work schedule was different. But I drove from Missouri to California, stayed there for about a week, shot that Benelli in the desert. I really don't want to like that Benelli. Really don't.
That's because you don't want to afford it.
Don't want to or can't?
Both. I think in your case, it's a both.
Yeah. And I finally got all my reloading stuff reset up again. So I've been getting a bunch loaded because I got practices coming up. I got a bunch of mentored hunts coming in. So now I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to get my own hunts in because when I mentor, I don't actually hunt. So
That's a good thing.
that's about it. Just not less if they harvest like on a Saturday, then I can hunt on a Sunday, but that doesn't usually how it goes. And a bunch of stuff coming up that I can't even remember. That's it. I missed you guys.
I was expecting to see you from broadcasting from the left coast there.
See, there was a snowstorm. I mean, not a snowstorm, a sandstorm.
Yeah, snowstorm, sandstorm.
Oh my god, it was quite interesting. Like a legit reason to have on a mask, and I had to wear eye protection while I was there. And it
I was
was
wondering why
cold.
you were wearing goggles.
Yeah, it was that. That sand's horrible. Yeah, but I had fun. Nothing like shooting literally in the desert. It's kind of liberating. And no, Paul. I know that these OGs on here do. And Nick, you're not an OG. You're a young G. I have a loner 12 gauge from Benelli, and it's the Ethos. And they challenged me to chase pheasants with it this season, and I took the challenge another level and said I was only going to shoot everything shotgun with that gun, and kind of pissed at myself for doing that because this past weekend at a breast cancer shoot, I've shot my personal best ever, and I hate it.
When I used to shoot trap, I was shooting a Ludic for a long time, and it was a given gun. In other words, with the team, and here, try this, and hand it out to people, and they would sit down and do the same thing. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I'm like, that's how they sucker it in. And of course, I'm not helping because everybody that even looks at it sideways, you want to shoot it? So I'm suckering in some other suckers like me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's the way you keep getting free guns.
Oh,
Best
it's not
advertising.
it's
Best,
not free. It's a loaner.
best advertising is word of mouth advertising. And here, try my gun.
Yeah, only this is hand and shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you do it long enough, you will get free gun. Okay?
Well, that's always nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sell enough guns for Benelli, they'll give you a free gun.
Uh-huh.
I don't shoot the gun, pretty much sells itself.
Exactly.
That's
That's
kind
the
of
point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I shot
Yeah.
that thing and was like, I get it. I don't want to, but I get it.
Now you should be on the show expounding the virtues of the Benelli, and especially to Travis over there with to get him get one of their combat shotguns and all that kind of stuff. Of course, he probably's got two, but yeah, you have to sell them. That's the idea.
It's not true. They won't give you shit. I've sold probably 450 Benelli shotguns since I've started back at the gun counter, and I ain't gotten squat for it. So
Well, you haven't, but your company has.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful shotgun.
It is a good shotgun. Yeah.
yeah, Ethos is nice. It's not Benelli's best, but it's nice.
Yeah.
I take a Montefeltro over the Ethos.
What's the MSRP on an Ethos?
2149.
Oh, so it's not the regular Ethos; it's the fancy Ethos.
Yeah,
Because
it's
a regular Ethos is only 1,200.
Yeah, no, this one's 2149.
Oh, they give you the nice one.
Well, this is MSRP. So yeah, no, it is. It's the I think it's the sport edition. I think I had to double check. I got the model number and I got the specs on it, but
Yeah,
once
see,
I
you gotta
took it
get
out the
the
box, I didn't
ultralight Sport 2 and shoot that one.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I'm not falling for this again.
Mm-hmm.
What's the matter? You haven't tamed that recoil yet?
What recoil? That's the problem. Look, I'm not gonna never get my lifetime hunting license if these people keep loaning me these guns.
No,
You said yes.
I told
did.
you what to buy next. Okay.
Yes, you did.
Hmm.
I'm ignoring all of it.
Listen, Shrinda, if you like that shotgun, why give it back? Why don't you go ahead and keep it? You can.
Let's see. I kind of like food, lights,
You
internet.
give it back though. Ask yourself, if you give it back, are you gonna wish you had it?
Oh, of course, but I've also driven a Demon and a Hellcat. I didn't come back home with one of those.
Well, you just haven't gotten to the right one yet. There's the higher end BMWs, the Audi A8s. You gotta start thinking the right way.
I'm not falling for you. I'm not falling for it. No.
I can tell you C-Class are not comfortable.
And I got a
No.
couple of reloading accessories I'm gonna try to tinker around with the next couple of weeks. It's getting cold now, so I can get back in my garage.
Yeah.
What sort of accessories did you pick up?
It's not mine per se, but I'm borrowing a RCBS Progressive just to see how it works. I have, I got a couple of things RCBS. I can't remember. There's some smaller things. There's scales. I got a couple of extra die sets. A box of gadgets. I can't really remember what all they were. Oh, and I was able to acquire one of these dirt cheap.
Yeah.
So I don't have nothing to
Arsenal
do
camera.
watching TV. Yep, just play with this.
Odd Hookham's decapping tool.
Yep, $20.
Use it as a gun to take it from the person, huh?
What'd you say, Paul?
Use it as a gun to take it from the person for $20, right?
Well, yeah, I
You're
should
getting
have.
like Nick over there, buying trimmers for $30 that are $100.
Hey, that's why you get to the gun show early, and you
Uh-huh.
literally make a first lap. You don't look at guns or anything. You just speed walk and you look at the tables.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, or when someone says, I got some stuff I'm thinking about getting rid of, don't let them think. Just be like, hey, I'll be right over.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, no.
Go ahead, Nick.
Another thing I forgot to say when I was talking about what I did, I made an order today through Inline Fabrication. Got all my quick change plates and all that ordered today.
Nice. How tall a mount did you get?
I'm going flush.
Okay.
Yeah, and I bought the spacer, the 3/8 inch spacer. So
Mhm.
Because without that spacer, you got to route it in that inline fabrication plate into your bench.
yep.
Well, Sharinda reminded me one more thing I did do. So my preferred shotgun for 3-gun is the Stoger M3K, and I had a friend not too long ago. He picked one up, and it was all the work was done by MOA Precision. He had all these great ideas about coming out with us and shooting 3-gun. And then just the other day, he sent me a message, said, "Hey, I'm going to sell this shotgun. Do you want it?" So I said, "Bring it on over." So it's an exact shotgun that I have. Everything, the tube on it, everything is the same. So I picked up another one. So I have a backup.
A backup.
A backup. You always got to have two.
2 is 1, 1 is none. Okay, speaking of 2, Paul, what is the difference between the Forster seating die and the Redding Premium Deluxe seating die? I purchased the Redding 2 years ago, and it still sits unused in the box between work, raising grandsons, and scouts. Now I have not had the chance to use it, but plan on trying to this winter. Thank you for your time and helps with this, Larry.
Okay. My impressions on the Redding. One, it fully supports the case, body, and neck when you're seating. The micrometer part of the die is small. It's not well marked. It's, in other words, the in between each graduation is a very small gap, so it's very difficult to um, look at it while it's on your press and trying to adjust it. Uh, it doesn't um, it doesn't hit the has a few problems with the nose of the bullet. Let's call it that. Especially with some of the longer match bullets. Um, and it's 50 thousandths revolution per turn, but it's a very small. Again, it's a small diameter. Whoops, sorry guys. It's a small diameter on the diets on the adjustment itself, and it's probably the most expensive one out there, other than a Warner. Okay, as far as a seating die. Going to the Forester, I like it because it's got a very large reading as far as on the micrometer. You got a big area. It's a 50 thousandths again per revolution, but it's um, the spacing in between the lines. I can hit half thousandths with it without too much of a problem. It treats the bullet gently as far as the seating stem, and it's got a full length bushing again to support the case neck and body for good alignment. And you're talking about $90 on average. Uh, but they don't carry the inventory. Say if you go to Reading, you can get anything made, okay? Or they have just about all of it somewhere in any caliber you want. Forester, no, it's only the popular calibers that are going to be carried by it. Then there's Whidden dies. Whiddens are probably just about like the Forester, except Whidden dies are all aluminum, and there's some issues with galling on some of that. if you don't keep it extremely clean. You can go to RCBS, but it doesn't have the case support that the case and neck support that a Redding or a Whidden or a Forester die would have. Straight line die. You can get a Wilson, L.E. Wilson. I like them. They're very accurate. VDL stems, but you have to have an arbor press for it. Hornady has a replaceable top for its, and with a micrometer that you can plug in. It's nice, but it's really fine as far as the steps in between there, and you have a little bit of you can have a hard time hitting it exactly. But again, seating stems are interchangeable, and I wish they included the die body instead of just the case neck with its seating. Then if you want to go top notch, you got Warner Tool. And so if everybody's sitting down, just so you know, it's $800 a die. That is the most expensive one out there. And that is custom made for you.
A mere pittance. A mere
Right.
pittance.
Yeah. You send them three cases with the bullet that you want seated to what you want, and they will custom chamber that with it. So, but they're big on, on extreme long range. Warner Tool manufactures its own bullet line, its own cases. They do a lot of that stuff, and sizing die from them is $600. A seating die is $800 and up. So enjoy it, boys and girls.
All right. Next question.
Yeah.
I'm using a bullet mold, Lee 90464, 0.356, 124 grain lead or LRN. It drops at a constant 120 grains. I'm getting load data. What would be the best weight to use? The stated weight or the actual weight?
So first off, Jim, do you want to explain why a guy would be getting different weights when he's casting a lead projectile? Let's start with that first.
All right. Well, the antimony and the tin, or any various other metals that may be dissolved into the mixture or alloyed into the mixture, are going to reduce the weight, because the 125 grain, 126 grain LRN bullet from the Lee mold is designed to use that weight, indicates that you're using pure lead.
Because lead
You're going
is
to drop
obviously heavier, is the heaviest substance. So when you, like Jim said, when you dilute that, you're decreasing that density and weight of that projectile.
Yes, I agree. And as far as to answer his question, use stated weight or actual weight, I would actually go with stated weight, simply because of erring on the side of caution. You'll get a little bit more velocity out of that bullet because you're shooting a lighter bullet with a heavier load.
Yeah, we're talking 4 grains though in a pistol.
Yes,
So
but
just
still,
go with,
it's
no, I'm agreeing with you. I'd say go with the book, because same thing, right, Jim? If he depends on where he's getting his lead, what he's doing with that lead, he could cast some up in a couple days. Has a different antimony or tin mixture, he could be get a completely different weight.
Mm-hmm.
So if this individual's wanting to go by what his actual weight of projectile is, it's going to drive him crazy because he's going to be separating stuff out and weighing everything. When I wouldn't bother with it. Just
No, not
cast.
for plinking ammo. That's for sure. I agree with you there, Travis.
Yeah,
You
well,
know, you burn a lot of handgun. You burn a lot of 9mm ammo. You know, like do you and when you cast the majority of your bullets?
so
And
I like to
do you
check.
segregate them by weight?
No, sir. I like to check. That tells me one. When I weigh it, that also tells me I get a rough idea of how my mixture is. You know, I can see if I got how much lead compared to because I add like lineal type lead to my mixtures, and I try to shoot for a Lyman number 2.
Good ally.
So I don't separate stuff out, but I do occasionally check weights and see if I got one that was way off. Then I won't even use them. I'll just remelt them back down and add more lead or whatever to get my mixture back up close to what I want it to be. But for the most part, yeah, I don't bother with it. Cast them up, powder coat them, and shoot them.
What's
What grain would
lineotype
you?
and what's lineotype and what do you mean by Lyman number 2?
So I'll answer one. I'll let Jim answer one. So, and I could grab one. It wouldn't show you guys anything, but lineotype lead is what they commonly used in printing presses, and it's what is the mixture, Jim? I don't exactly know how to describe what it is. It's super hard. It's a very hard lead mixture, and
That's
you add that to your lead to bring the Brunel hardness up.
Yes.
So when you have lead, like Lyman number 2 would be 90% lead, and isn't it? It's 5%. Is it 5% tin and 5% antimony?
Yes.
Okay. So when you have it, you got the lead for weight, you got the antimony for your Brunel hardness, and the tin helps flow better and fill out your molds and get you a nice fill in your cavities. So
Also makes a nice shiny bullet.
Yes, sir. It makes it look real nice. So you can kind of. I wish there was a really nice tool that we could get out there. I was trying to design one, and it's on the hold for now. But it's nice to have some kind of a measurement so you can figure out your Brunel hardness. People are now going to start making comments that you got the old charcoal pencil test. You got the old. I kind of just use I just kind of use my thumb and press into it, see how much of an indent into the lead you can get. When I make my ingots, I try to just do pretty much pure lead and segregate my lead stream that I have. So I'll put pure lead here, wheel weights here, and that way I can kind of at least keep track, and I write on top of my lead ingots what they are, like pure or lineal type. That way, when I go to actually mix up a batch, I can kind of get that into where the Brunel hardness and such that I want.
As far as the hardness tester goes, Lee makes a pretty decent system. It's just people don't understand how to use it. They have a microscope that you actually use. It's a ball indentation method. You put a little bit of pressure on it. They give you a tool to help you measure the pressure. You put a little pressure on it with your press handle on the ball into the lead, and you hold it for 30 seconds. You just hold it, and it's a little indicator on top of this. It looks like a die, but it's not. It's an indentation tester. Anyway, so once you do that, you just simply set the bullet down. You have to build your own stand, and you put the lead micrometer directly over top of the indentation. And it's kind of tedious to move around. You move it with a pair of tweezers or something, or even a Q-tip or something like that. But once you get it under there, you measure the diameter of the indentation. And once you measure the diameter of the indentation, you can immediately correlate it to the chart that's provided with every set of Lee hardness testing set.
Yeah, in all honesty, though, that Lee hardness tester is hokey at best.
Well,
It's
it
cheap.
works.
It works. It's cheap. If anyone's interested, I know on the Reloaders Network, Bacon has been 3D printing some nice holders that you can put that little microscope into, and it's like a nice 3D printed stand. So you're not having to hold everything. It's actually pretty decent. I don't have one, never used it, but just looking at it, it looks like it's pretty good. Yeah, John's hand loading just commented what I just said. I think Seiko makes one, and if I remember right, it was pretty expensive. I've seen some that are up to $300.
That's more for the professional level caster. $300 for a bullet hardness test or lead hardness tester. Well, you could test ingots and you could test any bulk lead that you might have, something like that. But my God.
Yeah, I started off watching Fortune Cookie 45 LC. He's got a bunch of really good videos on there where he just kind of shows you different cheap methods on how to figure out at least a ballpark of where your lead's at. And that I recommend people watch. I think I almost want to say Johnny's Reloading Bench has gone through some of this too, but Fortune Cookie 45 LC, in my opinion, is one of the premier guys for casting anyways.
Okay.
Ray Rowden, he has a lead alloy calculator that's on Excel spreadsheet that he's going to have Nick put it on Discord. That would be great.
If you want, I have it opened up. We can kind of show how it works here. If you want, I can share my screen and show it if you want.
Mike? Thank you. You're up, Nick.
Let's see. I don't know. Trying to figure out how to do this. Where do I hit the start the screen share?
At the bottom of your screen, you should just have a button or something that says share with a plus in the monitor screen.
Got that. So I have video. So share screen. Then share screen again. Window. Here we go. Window. Now it's weird. It's not doing it. So let me do this. I'll do this. I'll share it with Mike or.
Yeah, you almost left the channel. It looks like.
Hey, Mike, I shared the file with you. See if you can get it open, and it's easier for you.
How did you share it with me?
Via Google Drive.
To me or to
the podcast? My bad.
Okay. There we go.
So what we use this for is we use this when I'm creating different loads for, like, for instance, my Martini Henry, stuff like that. We don't use any of the prices on the right-hand side. Of course, those are all out of date. But for instance, we want to do 20-1. You can put a certain number of pounds in there, and then say you want to add some linotype to it. So you want to add 2 pounds of that to it. You put in however much you want on there, and it'll tell you down at the bottom your Brunel hardness. So
Mike, you able to click off of that and get that off the screen so we could look at?
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's nice to have an idea of your Brunel hardness.
So, for instance, I wonder if it'll do this. So, for instance, I want to put, say, 10 pounds of 20-1, and I want to add a pound of linotype. It'll give me a estimated hardness of 11 down at the bottom. If you want to scroll down a little bit, Mike. Right there. So, estimated hardness of an 11 of the mixed alloy. So, it's going to be 4.69% tin, about 1% antimony, and 94% lead. So that's something we found on the internet when we were kind of mixing stuff and using different things. It was kind of nice to have.
So the purer the product you have, the easier it is to do a calculation of what you're going to get.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like that's nice. Roto Metals is great. You can buy 20-1 straight linotype. So we kind of can say I would get pure. I have a ton of pure lead, for instance. I can get some linotype. I can kind of play around with my recipe to try to find a certain Brunel hardness I want to reach.
Okay. And which at the same time affects the bullet fill out and the weight of the bullet. So
Absolutely.
the closer that you get to the prescribed mixture, the closer your bullet weight is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, if you click back on me real quick for a second, I was just going to show this. This is a book from Lyman called The Cast Bullet Handbook. This is an excellent source for anyone doing any kind of casting. And it also shows in here what you should expect. So you can see, if I can get that curl out right there. Shows Lyman number 2. Focus. Computer's awesome. So anyway, it's got a little chart in here you can look up. So someone's kind of asking in the chat, how does one know the hardness of lineal type when it's available from different sources? You would hope where you're buying it from, they're a reputable source.
Travis, that's all blurry.
I know. I'm trying to get to focus. It shows here lineal type should be 86% lead, 3% tin, and 11 on the antimony scale. There, that's it's probably about as good as we're going to get. So you can see on antimony, that's off the charts for compared to everything else. And that's where you're getting that Brunel hardness from.
So what is antimony?
That's a good question. What is antimony?
I mean, I know what tin is, and I know lead and linotype. But what is antimony? I keep hearing people call for it, and
Okay, so lead antimony is one of a numerous metal alloys. That's not the definition that I wanted. Where are we at? I'm trying to look for a really good definition here, but all I can really come up with is it's a very stable metal that does not conduct heat or electricity when in its pure form.
John's hand loading says antimony is a chemical element with the symbol capital SB. Okay. So where do we find it? I mean, do we buy it? Or
Well, it's going to be mixed in with some. I don't think you're going to find. You can find antimony in its pure form. I don't think we, if I remember right, I don't believe we necessarily have the ability easily to melt pure antimony into something. That's why we kind of get it from somewhere else that's already been blended in for us. So we kind of get it in this form. Like I said, back in the day, you could get it, quite easily, but with printing presses and stuff going away, lineal type lead's harder and harder to find. So that's why we take that lead we've accumulated from, like I said, I've got a bunch. Full Lead Taco gave me some one time, and I've got a whole bunch of it, and I use it sparingly because I don't know when I'll get any more. But yeah,
wheel weights were heavy in antimony, right?
Yep.
it has it in there, and that's why people. Well, actually, if you can melt down all just wheel weights, like the clip-ons, you're basically kind of melting down to a Lyman number 2. So in that situation, you don't really have to add anything. You can melt that down, and you're pretty much good to go for most applications. But if you start adding in like the sticky ones, the sticky wheel weights, they're pure lead. So if you mixed all that together, you're kind of diluting.
You're bringing softer metals into your
Correct.
mixture.
So you're diluting that hardness and that tin content.
I have a general purpose standard definition of antimony. It's used to increase the hardness of alloys with lead alloys for batteries, with lead, copper, tin alloys for machine bearings. It is also used in automotive clutch and brake parts. The other major use is to use antimony trioxide for the production of flame retardant chemicals.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering right, it's not something that we can easily melt ourselves. I'm sure you could if you're real determined at it, but I'm almost certain it was real hard for us to just grab some and throw it in our pot. I don't think it melts.
No, the melting point is 630.6 degrees Celsius. Commonplace if people find antimony is pewter.
Yep.
So modern pewter is about 91% tin, 7.5% antimony, and 1.5% copper.
Yeah, and most of the time when you're looking for that pewter, you're not really getting it for the antimony. You're getting it for the tin.
But it does both at the same time.
Exactly.
And we use tin to what? It's there to do what?
The tin helps it flow better and fill out your molds.
That's right.
If people when they're casting, you'll always see them complaining that they aren't getting a really nice, pretty bullet. They're getting pockets or not getting filled out or just kind of goofy looking. And that's because they don't have enough tin. And like Jim said, if you have a lot of tin in there, it's going to be real shiny and real pretty looking.
But it'll be a light bullet.
It will be light, yes.
Because tin's not a very heavy metal.
Well, lead's the heaviest, so you don't
Tin's
have pure.
very expensive. Tin's a very expensive metal. 20 years ago, last price I got on tin was $15 a pound. 20 years ago.
Tin is still available at a reasonable price because there are people that use tin to roofers use tin. Expensive body shops use tin, and because they can, it melts, but it also hardens quickly. In a body shop, they can take it, form it up, sand it, and put it into a nice shape easily. But again, the main reason that we use tin is to get it to flow better into our molds. So the proper amount of tin is critical.
And our buddy Chico Wise, he's the king of collecting pewter. He was hitting up yard sales and thrift shops, and he was always posting awesome pictures and stuff of all of his finds. And I haven't had the luck he has. He's the king of collecting pewter.
Yes, he is.
So Vemjum says down in us down under, he's paying $10 for a kilogram of pewter. So that's pretty good. He's got 2 big boxes from a trophy shop. So the pewter is a common thing to use in trophies. Excuse me. All right, so Chris W.'s got one more quick question here. But he ran. I'm hoping he posts the rest of it. Another question for y'all. I recently purchased a 505 scale thinking I would use it to double check the charge master. I set it up, spin the leg wheel to bring the...
To balance, probably, because that's where you're supposed to, as it's not a scale, it's a balance. And we're balancing it out. And it ain't working, right, Chris?
Ta-da. Trying to bring the pointer to the 0 and set the weights to what I'm trying to measure. Charge master will throw 72.8. When I dump it on the 505, it shows it's too high or too low, I'm guessing. That's your 2 options. We did Travis and I were doing this the other day. Remember, Travis?
I do.
So,
yes.
So, Chris, what you need to do is you need to not set the scale first. Throw the powder charge on it, and then move it. So, I found mine was light too until I did it that way. So that's what you got to do is you actually dump the charge in there with the scale set at 0 and balanced, and then you adjust your weight settings.
And Chris, instead of going to all that trouble buying a $100 scale, go out and buy yourself $40 or $50 worth of check weights, and you can get there and do it much better.
There you go.
If not, then you do like I do and just buy a FX 120i and not even bother with it anymore.
Exactly. Okay, so last question for the night. Chris, do you reset to 0 with every charge? Well, if you're weighing every charge, yes. Last question for the night. Patrick Logan. Come on. Ketchup. Guys' favorite prep for new bullet molds. How to prepare them prior to first use.
Well, this is another topic we can go on and on about too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to just give a quick rundown, and I'll pass it off to Jim. Anyone else? First off, whoever you buy the mold from should have directions of what they recommend you do.
Yep.
To prepare it, I suggest, like I said, I really like NOE bullet molds. They've got a detailed instruction list when you get that from them. You can also go and watch videos on this. Full Ed Taco runs through this exact thing from process of getting it in a mold in the mail and going through cleaning it, degreasing it, because that is something you want to do because there will be residue left from the machining process. So you want to clean it with soap, maybe an old toothbrush or something, get all that washed off, dried up, and then I've done both, and I'm kind of leaning one way nowadays, but a lot of guys take an old match and smoke the molds to get some carbon residue on there. It can help with release of the projectile. I haven't been doing that lately, and I get pretty good results. They also make a spray release you can buy from like Brownells or something. But if a guy really wants to see a real detailed way of doing it, check out Full Lead Taco's video on mold prepping. So, Jim, what say you?
Well, me personally, degrease the mold. You can use just about anything to smoke the mold to act as a release agent. And I've gone from brand new molds. I took a 130 grain, 30 caliber for the 308 blackout guys from RCBS, brand new, never been cast. And I've ran 2,000 bullets through it. And the only thing I did to it was keep it clean, keep it dry. That's
I
the
did
only thing
forget.
I did to it.
I did forget. I think it's important. NOE in their descriptions and others recommend you run it through a heat cycle.
Yep.
So there, like
Yeah,
I
I
said,
warmed it up.
what did you like? When I get mine in, I degrease it, wash it down with soap and water, and then there's instructions on heating it up in the oven for so long, letting it cool, putting it back in the oven, bringing it back up to temperature. I personally put a little bit of beeswax on the pins and hinges. Make sure that does not drip into your mold cavity, or you'll be hating life.
I've done that a few times too.
Yeah,
Paraffin works too.
paraffin. A little bit goes a long ways, doesn't it?
Yep.
Actually, what I like to use is a good old fashioned never sees on the alignment pins and on the hinge of the mold, but never in the cavity. If you put it in the cavity,
Never.
you might as well just degrease it and start over.
Do you guys have a soap preference when you wash them?
You have to
I
use
don't-
Dawn.
A lot
No,
of people
just
you
kidding.
like
You can use
use detergent
I
like
hear
that, but
Irish Spring is wonderful.
detergent leaves the residue. So
I
does
like to
soap.
use
It
brake
leaves even
cleaner.
worse.
Brake cleaner. Do you
Exactly.
find that there's a difference between if you use Dawn, basic Dawn versus all of this rainbow stuff they got out?
Basic Dawn.
Whatever the wife's got in the kitchen, and it's usually Dawn. That's what I've used. But honestly, Paul's right. Brake cleaner, that's going to take care of everything. That's going to get everything off of there. But
Yeah.
don't do it in your house. Yeah, I was going to say any 2-cycle oil is perfect too for those alignment pins and hinges.
Mhm.
That comment also comes from Ray Rodden. Steel synthetic oil as a lube for the sprue plate. That'd be the hinge of the sprue plate. Maybe a little bit across the top, but be very careful you don't get that down in the cavity.
Lucas does the same thing. Any of the synthetic ones will work. Just depends upon how pretty you want it to look when you put it on. Yeah. Clean it good, heat it up, treat it with, if you like to use a release agent, use a release agent on it. I'm not saying that I'm a big fan of some of the ones that are out there. Smoking a mold was always the way I did it. And run the mold for 50 or 100 bullets, and when it's up to temperature, and then double check everything you have to make your check your cast bullets that you have to make sure that everything is right. That's it.
Yeah. So this is a trick I learned from you, Jim, from listening to the podcast way back when. Instead of running, you got a couple options, but instead of running a whole bunch of cycles on that mold, and to get that up to temperature, Jim taught us way back. You could take the mold and dip the corner, keep it shut, and dip the corner right inside of the pot, whatever pot you're using. Just dip that corner in there, and that usually most of these molds nowadays are made out of aluminum. It's a real good conductor of heat. So you just dip that corner in, and it'll preheat that mold for you, and you can get off and be casting quicker with really nice results that way. From what I learned from Full Lead Taco is he talked me into getting like a heating pad. What the heck are they called?
Hot plate.
Hot plate.
Electric hot plate.
Electric hot plate, and you can set your molds right on that and get those up to temperature. Yep. Buy a $20 hot plate to preheat your molds, and that works out excellent. But if you don't have that, or don't want to stick because I have stuck my mold right in the pot before first starting off and didn't get it up to temperature enough, and then it's a huge mess getting lead out and stuff. You got to get that back up to temperature to clean all that lead out. But as long as you don't mess up and you keep the handle tight and stick the corner in there like Jim talks about, it works really well.
Travis, what I also learned to do with those aluminum molds, like you said, put the corner in there, but I overheated in the lead. I actually want the lead sprue to take a while to freeze. So once I actually get my lead down in there, I want it to be too damn hot. I'll let the lead cool down. I'll let the mold cool down, so I can start casting and making good molds within the first 3 or 4 throws.
Yeah.
You learn to look at the sprue. You learn to watch that sprue. You'll actually see it freeze. About 2 seconds after you see the top of the sprue freeze, then you can cut that sprue off nice and clean.
So Andy 79Z28, who was the one that said the $20 hot plate, says I turn on my pot, put the mold on the hot plate, 30 minutes later, ready to go. So.
And the guy, one of the guys from down under Vemgem, I don't know if that's proper pronunciation, but he uses a propane torch useful for slug molds. Those slug molds are big, and you're running an ounce of lead at one time at least, maybe 7/8, but that's a pretty good chunk of lead.
Yeah, when you get real good, right, Jim? You don't run just one mold; you're running multiple molds at once.
Because you got to let the damn thing cool off.
So I usually run a 5 or 6 cavity, and I'll run one. And when it gets too hot, I'll switch over to another one. While that first one's cooling down, I'm getting that other one just hot as can be casting. And I've gotten to where I do 3 molds now. So I'll have 2 separate pots, or I water quench all my stuff. So I'll have 2 sitting there, and I usually do two molds exactly the same, usually 147 9mm or 133 grain 9mm, and I'll run those 2 molds. And when they get too hot, I'll switch over to whatever, for my 300 blackout, and I'll dump those into a separate pot, so I don't have into a different water pot, I should say. And that way, once I'm completely done, I don't have to sort through all the lead to sort out my 2 different projectiles and such. But yeah, you'll be surprised at how much you can actually produce if you get going on 2 molds going at once.
So what happens if the mold gets too hot?
So I don't know about you guys, Jim, but I don't like doing this. Some guys will tell you they keep a little sponge or a wet rag there, and when it gets too hot, they kind of just rest it on that rag or tap it to cool it down. But I personally like to just set it off to the side and let it cool down naturally.
Well, Gerald Beatty taught me. He's a guy from the Reloading Room off on Facebook. He's out your way, Nick and Paul. He's in Indiana. But anyway, he taught me to take a shop rag, wet it down, keep it on my bench, not wet per se, but dampen it up nice, and then every once in a while just take a swipe across that rag, and that'll cool the mold down right quick. Now you're not cooling the mold down completely. You're just dropping some of the, maybe 5 or 10 degrees, just enough so you can cast again while having to wait for the sprue to freeze. Mike, there's one on there for you.
Oh, good grief. And he couldn't ask me that on the phone. Good grief. Anyway,
Mike's son.
he's had a desire to get a FNX 45 for a long time, and then he found out how much they cost. So now he wants to know if the FN 509 is a good compromise. Yes, FN 509 is on my list to purchase. So there.
You can't hardly go wrong with FN.
No, not really.
But anyway,
pretty much. All right, gang.
Travis got us to talking about casting. My God, we'll be here all night. Let's pull the plug, Mikey.
Well, that's what I was gonna do until you started on. Dang nabbit. So,
my fault.
Stupid blizzard. Stop knocking out the power. What, Sharp, you got a blizzard out there?
Not in Wyoming.
That sucks. Anyway. Swing over to Primary Arms. Check out what they got going on. They got a bunch of reloading stuff. They've got a bunch of firearm stuff, too. So that's kind of some of it. Also want to take a time to thank Patriot Patch Company. That's patriotpatch.co. Here's October's patch of the month. So just thank you to all the Patreons. Keep supporting us. Travis is going to help me do some editing. Chris Sharp's to help me do some editing. So we'll get the audio stuff cut back up and get those posted. I've got one that I'm about to post as soon as I get off of here. So, but just appreciate everybody tuning in live, everybody who downloads podcasts, everybody who pops into YouTube later and watches them. Thank you to my co-hosts for showing up every week and helping out. So, just awesome deal. Great show. Just send us your questions and stuff if you have stuff too. Yeah, as Patrick Logan said, thanks Patrick Logan. He says hit the like button. Yeah. Damn it, Sharp. So Sharp says, Paul Loud says, if you pay the power button, or pay the power bill, and then Paul Loud said, pay the Patreon or pay the podcast, pay the Patreon to the podcast or the power bill. I know what I have to pay first. And Chris, we are grateful that you support us as a Patreon. So thank you very much for that, and all of our other Patreons who help keep this happening. So StreamYard is a little expensive to do, but it's nice because it's a good platform. It's solid, and they continue to put improvements in here. So eventually, they're working on getting it so we can actually separate out all the hosts onto separate audios, and then we can do a little better picking out noises and stuff like that too, and that type of thing. So. But just grateful for everybody keeps tuning in. Thanks for all the likes. Jim said 27 watching, 32 likes. So that means we had a few people stop by and say hi and like. So and that's about all I got for tonight. Anybody else got any shout outs?
Mm-hmm.
There.
When are we going to see Jason?
He's getting his computer up and running. So
okay.
I was talking to him a little bit tonight, so probably next couple weeks. So they had quite a bit of work to do to get settled in. So had some foundation issues they had to get fixed, and then some other things. So, and it's colder up there. So him being older, he kind of goes a little slower with the cold weather. He acts more like a cold-blooded amphibian or reptile. So
he's going to make you pay for that.
I expect it. So, and on that note, gang, keep your breath shiny.
Like
If
Grandpa
you-
said, your mother wasn't right. Violence does solve problems.
If you get drawn into casting, don't get sucked into the dark side and go the ALOX route.
ALOX
Go
Nation.
to the correct way and powder coat those babies.
Jump on the Millsap short bus.
After you, lady.
If a big company asks you if you want to try their product, tell them no.
Yes, you're supposed to try them.
Buy it, Sharonda.
You're supposed to sell their
Support the
product.
Second Amendment, everyone. Support the Second Amendment. It doesn't get more important than that. Support the Second Amendment. Join the GOA, NRA, SAF, Gun Owners of America, whatever you want to call them. Whatever they join something. Join something that is going to take care of, support the Second Amendment, defend it, and keep it strong.
Absolutely. Remember, if you're struggling, 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. They've got lots of people that can help you out. So if you're struggling, not sure what to do. So on that note, folks, good night.